This empty chair represents the addict who died today, not knowing recovery was possible.
Hi, I'm Phil Lahey, along with my daughter Colleen, and we'd like to welcome you to another edition of The Empty Chair, Exposing Addiction. Before we introduce our guests, I'd like to, those of you who have been watching the show and following along, if you know somebody, families that are in need, who may have a problem, whatever like that, you know, have them tune in to us, or if they want, they can give us a call if there's specific things they want to ask, whatever like that. But we're trying to raise awareness and we're trying to reach as many people as we can. And anything you can do to help us, obviously, we'd appreciate. Colleen, want to introduce?
Sure. Again, my name's Colleen and I'm an addict. I'm in recovery and I'm like really excited about this show. Like I love these guys right here. They're very special people, like to me, like in my life and in my recovery. We have Kerry and we have Jenn, and like I said, they're both like in my network. And what a network is, it's people in recovery that like have some time and we all go to meetings together, and when we need help, like we can talk to each other, and we basically help save each other's lives on a daily basis. You know, they work in treatment, you know, so like addicts do like get better, and you know, like we're smart people and we can accomplish anything. And Kerry's actually working in treatment. She's a counselor, and Jenn is interning. She's working at a treatment facility too. And I just think it's awesome. And again, like I'm super excited about this show. Like I was excited all day, like waiting to tape this tonight, because I love being around them. You know, like I feel good like when I'm around them. So I guess if you want to start, like maybe just tell us a little bit about.
Really, you're excited?
I am excited.
It doesn't show.
Really?
No.
I'll try and turn it up a little bit. So I guess we can start with Kerry.
Sure.
Like just a little bit of a background, you know.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kerry, and I'm an addict as well, living in recovery. And like Colleen said, I work as a substance abuse counselor. You know, but it took me a while to get there. You know, I lived in active addiction for quite some time, and about 4.5 years ago, like I decided, like I had had enough with my life. I had gone through enough. I have 3 children. I had put them through enough. So I decided to start recovery. And when my mother's been in the field her entire life, so when like I started the recovery process, I decided I was going to go back to school. A little bit unsure on what I wanted to do, but I have compassion for addicts. I love to help addicts. I love to see addicts succeed. And I went through treatment, so I went to Northern Essex and I actually looked up how to get into human services in general. And that's where I figured out I could do substance abuse counseling. So I graduated. I started an internship at the Link House in Newburyport, which I now work at. After graduating, I was hired. And I just recently passed my LADAC exam, so I'll have my license within the next few months. So I'll be able to practice individually if I choose to. And I'm still currently in school to be a social worker because like I have long-term goals that I want to accomplish. So
it's nice to be able to accomplish goals, like set things out and just, you know, because back when we were, you know, using and stuff like that, and you know, time passes and, you know, get clean and get your stuff together and then going to school and now being able to help other addicts like follow their own path, like whatever it is. Yeah. It's like, it's a beautiful thing. Jenn, what about you, a little backstory?
Sure. My name's Jenn, I'm an addict as well, also in recovery. My anniversary is actually next week. I'll have 5 years.
All right.
How many years?
5 years.
5 years.
November 22nd. 27th. 22nd.
Wonderful.
All right.
And to be honest, I was listening to Kerry, and I was thinking about like my schooling and like getting into the substance abuse field. And I always thought like I was never good in school. I was always bad in school. Got kicked out of a lot of schools due to my using, was never in school, and ended up dropping out of high school because of my using. And I really thought like I would never amount to anything or ever go back to school, that school wasn't for me. Using was more important. And I actually obtained my GED in further treatment in a program back in the early 2000s. And I just went back to school probably 2 years ago. I've been going part-time because I work full-time too, and plus balancing life and recovery and meetings. And I'm currently in school for my KDAC, the Certified Alcohol and Drug Counselor. And I'm going to go on further to my LADAC, which is the Licensed Alcohol and Drug Counselor. And I just started my internship last month. I'm at a all-women's facility in Salisbury. It's a sober house. They also have people from the Department of Corrections there who are still currently incarcerated and are inmates, so it's a little different. But it's a good experience, and I never thought that this is where I would be. I never thought that I would go back to college or even be in this field, but I just want to give back and help people like people helped me.
You know, I'm always glad when we have addicts on that are in recovery and so forth, but I'm even more glad like when we had your friend Jennifer Burns on. Mm-hmm. There's an old wives' tale that supposedly addicts, their brain cells go, they never come back, and they fail to learn. And I think one of the things this show has done, you know, between Colleen and Jen and you two in particular, that, yeah, just because you're an addict, once you get clean and once you go into recovery, yeah, the brain cells wake up a little bit.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
you guys are proof that because you're an addict doesn't mean you're a burnout.
Right.
It doesn't have to be that way. So thank you.
And you're talking about like the balance, like going to school and doing the meetings and working. Like how did you get that balance? Or did you just kind of like push through it because you set these goals and you wanted to do it and you wanted to help people? I mean, how did you guys, you know, kind of find that balance that you needed?
When I first started, I was really fortunate because my mom, I have a very supportive mother. So when I first started going to school, it was school, meetings, my children, you know, and not particularly in that order.
How many kids do you have?
I have 3 children, Malaya, Nevaeh, and Malachi. And they're young, you know, and they were even younger when I got clean. So it was difficult in the beginning, but because I had the support of all the people around me, it was easy to put a schedule together, go during the day, be home with them, and then go to meetings at night. You know, and after I graduated and started working, in the beginning, it was difficult, like, because it's not easy when you change something, you have to find that balance again. But as long as you set your mind to it, like I put my mind to it and said, no matter what, like I am going to work full time and take care of my children and go to meetings. And I actually took a year off of school because I just bought a home and like life was just starting to come all together. So I took a year off of school. And then after being adjusted to working for a year and going to meetings and having that balance, then I started school again, you know, so.
So you knew when to kind of slow down and take care of yourself and always keep in recovery first, which is always the most important thing.
Right, yeah, because without recovery, I don't have anything else that I have in my life. If I don't go to meetings and stay involved with my network and the women that I'm involved with, I don't have anything, you know, and one of the biggest things that I've learned from the field is my job also can't be my recovery.
Right, right.
People that work in the field have to remember that my meetings and where I go, like that's my recovery. So I had to take some time because I knew I wasn't going to be able to handle it all at once.
Right.
But recovery's taught me to like step back and make healthy decisions and like utilize the tools that I have in my life and talking to people and that sort of thing. So
it must be quite a feeling of like accomplishment looking at all this stuff that you've been able to, you know, do, like, you know, moving to new places and buying houses and, you know, even getting your like GED like while you're in treatment. You know, like that's awesome. You know, to go from like you know getting kicked out of schools and all this stuff, and then it's like you go to the meetings and get better and get some recovery, and then you start setting these goals, get the GED, and now like you know you're working with women and like being a power of example to them, you know, so that they don't have to be like slaves to their disease anymore. You know, and for you work in the men's house and in the women's house, and that's awesome.
Well, no, yeah, I'm glad you guys brought up the fact that you still attend meetings with all your clean time, with all your recovery time, because last month we had guests, you know, who went through the relapse phase, and basically the reason they felt they relapsed was because, you know, they'd back off in recovery, they'd been clean so long, and they figured, well, we can do normal things. We can, and I appreciate the fact that you guys say, yeah, we still do our meetings because you're in recovery forever. So, you know, that's another thing. Hopefully others who do have some clean time will, you know, because yeah, it's something you work on forever. But what I wanted to ask you, as I told you earlier, I belong to a support group for parents and loved ones of addicts. And when we meet, you know, we spend half our time trying to talk our kids, you know, get treatment. So what we try to do is what we've been trying to do for the last 5 years is look for resources, places when the person's ready to go to a facility, trying to find places. And actually we've dealt with the Link House and we've dealt with Women's View numerous times. I'm going to be looking into your place too, probably. But, you know, for the people in my group and myself, what's required? You know, I know there has to be space available, which is number one. How does a person who really wants to get treatment, forget the parents calling up and like that, how does a person get into your programs?
Well, for me, you call into a phone intake. You know, we have times where we do them. They're Monday and Wednesdays between 1 and 4. The only requirement that you have to get into my facility is to have 30 days of sobriety. You can come from anywhere. We'll take you from the street, prison, holdings, any setting. 30 days of clean time and a Massachusetts resident with a primary diagnosis of substance abuse, because we don't work mainly with mental health. So we do have clients within our facility that have mental health concerns, but they have to be completely stable. And other than that, there's, you know, we take anybody. Bed availability is a big one. That is a big one.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Jen, what about your place?
My place is...
Now, yours is for all women, I think.
Right, mine's
and the Link
all
House
women.
is for all men.
All men.
Okay.
Right. Mine's a little different. We have, like I said, we have girls who are still inmates of the Department of Corrections. So they operate under a different umbrella because they're on the bracelet. So we take people from MCI Framingham women or other jails, and they get referred from the Department of Corrections. But we have another whole side of the house, which is the sober side, which is technically a sober house, and it's a paying house. So it's a little different than a halfway house. It's not covered by insurance, so you have to have some kind of income, or whether you're collecting, or if you have a job, or if not, then you need to have somebody who's willing to pay for you until you can get on your feet and get a job to pay for yourself. And it's $90 a week, which isn't that bad. And you buy your own.
Not bad at all.
Right. You buy your own toiletries and food, but it's not insurance covered like most places.
All right, so that would be a good stopover after someone who's been in a house similar to yours, like the next step.
Right.
You know, instead of going to a rooming house down on 28.
Yeah.
I mean, this would be like another step to, you know, where you'd still have some structure.
Usually, like, the levels of care go from, like, a detox to a holding, which is a place where you can stay up to 30 days to a few months until you get into a program. Then there's a halfway house, which is more structured. And then there's a sober house, which is where I'm at, which is a little less structured. You can work, you can have overnights.
And do they have like groups or meetings or anything like that?
They do. It's actually a really structured sober house, because I know, because I've been in plenty of programs. But it is actually a really structured sober house. It's probably as structured as some of the halfway houses that I've been in. They're required to go to 5 meetings a week and get their slip signed. It's mandatory therapy, urines up to 5 times a week. There's restricted medications, like you can't be on certain medications there. But it's a little different than hers too. It is required that you have 30 days of documented sobriety. They don't take people off of the street. So you need to either be referred there from a case manager, from a detox, or a holding.
That is different from a lot of sober, because a lot of sober houses, like the one you went to in Winthrop, you didn't have 30 days at the time. I think you only had about 2 weeks. And it was a good sober house, don't get me wrong, but it didn't have the structure that the one you're talking about.
Yeah, it is really structured for a sober
I like
house.
that. I think it's a wonderful step from, and again, it'd be nice if people did do all the steps instead of, well, after 30 days I'm all better and off they go. Let me ask you, this might be a hard question to answer. What's the success rate? I mean, how many people, out of 100 people that come in, how many people actually graduate through, which is like 6 months in yours? Or
6 to 9 months.
6 to 9 months. How many people actually graduate that you don't say, I'm sorry, you got to leave?
Out of 100?
Yeah. Tough one. Huh?
Yeah.
It is. It is a really tough one because you have some people that just go so far, and then you have others that just they can't change their behaviors. It's very easy to be asked to leave my facility.
Right.
It's not just for picking up. You know, there's behaviors. We're all about behavior change. We're very structured, very structured.
Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, because I know from other halfway houses that I've been involved with, women's, you're right. Just using doesn't get you thrown out.
Right.
There's certain sets of rules and regulations,
Right.
and, which is a good thing.
Well, it's yeah, it'd be hard to say, you know, even like success rate wise, because I mean, the disease is so like unpredictable, and you do have to have like, I mean, we all know you have to have a lot of willingness, and you have to be honest, and you have to be willing to change everything and follow direction. And you know, a lot of people have problems with authority coming into recovery, and they, you know, they would look at you guys as authority type, you know, figures. So it would be like hard to guess. I mean, you can never tell like who's going to make it and who's not going to make it. It all comes back to just like the person. Like if you do the work, and you know, and like I said, you guys are obviously like power of example to the people in there. It must be nice for you guys when you do see the ones who. How long have you been at the Link House?
I've been an employee for 6 months, but I've been there for a total of 2.5 years.
So that's a while. And how long have you been at Maris?
I've only been there like a month and a half, so.
Okay, so I'm sure there's still some of the same girls there. So to see them like kind of come in, and then you know they're there for like a little bit, and to see like the positive changes, you know, because we, you know, we come in like real rough and everything, but then we start to get better, and we start to just like change and, you know, become like these productive members of society. It must be nice to see that, just to be like a part of that, you know.
And the only reason I asked you that question, because I don't want people to get the idea that just because you go into a house, you're going to be all better. There's a lot of work involved.
Oh, right.
Right, because like I would have to say that since I've been there, I've probably seen more people get thrown out than graduate.
Right. Yeah.
And that's just the reality.
Yeah.
You know, so the success rate, you can have a good success rate when you're in treatment, but it comes down to individuals. It comes down to what you're willing to put in. It's the same thing for me in my recovery today. You know, my day depends on what I'm willing to put into my recovery and what I'm willing to look at in myself. So it's the same thing when you go into treatment. And like Colleen said, with authority figures, and, you know, we don't want to change simple behaviors because why do we have to change that? You know, we question all that stuff.
Right.
You know, so it takes a lot for somebody to come around and be willing to really take a good look in the mirror.
Really.
And see who you are, you know. So it depends on the addict and on the person themselves, on what they're willing to do while they're there.
Well, yeah, and you know, like what you were saying, and again, I want to stress the fact that getting into recovery, getting clean is far from easy and a lot of work. I mean, if it was, they wouldn't need your houses, you know? I mean, if it was that easy to quit, you wouldn't have relapses, you wouldn't need houses and so forth. And I appreciate the fact that you're saying, I know you're not saying how many don't make it out of 100, but yeah, it's a lot. And a lot of them have to come back numerous times, I know, and so forth like that. But, you know, I don't envy people coming in knowing that, you know, let's say 50% are going to fail, or fail that time, or not go through graduation and so forth. So it's kind of tough in that respect. But a thing I do appreciate even more than that is I'm thrilled at the fact that people that are in recovery, people who have addictions, are getting into the field of the counselors, because, you know, it's fine, you go to school, you go to college, you learn all about addiction, but you're not an addict. And I don't care what you learn, nobody's going to snowball you guys. You know every game, you know every trick, you know it. And that's what makes you guys so special, because, and I think it makes it, I think the people that are in recovery, that are really want to get better, appreciate the fact that they're talking to someone who's been through it, not just read about it in a book, but actually been through it.
More like respect. I would think like just a huge advantage, the fact that you guys have the experience that you can't, you know, learn in any book or anything like that. Like we've all like walked in each other's shoes, you know, like when you have like a client or whatever, or one of the girls, and they're telling you like, you know, how horrible it was. It's like, you know, you don't have to imagine, like, you know, because like you've been there, we've all been there. So like the level of compassion is going to go up because it's like you're connected by like those feelings, you know, like all the stuff that we went through, and you know that probably helped like with the, you know, trying to find the balance when you guys were trying to like do your thing and get your degrees and all this stuff, which is just like so awesome. Like you can like remember that, like how it was like out there, and that you want to help people, you know, and it's not just like, oh, I think I'm going to you know, look up what addiction's like, and maybe I'll help those addicts or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like it comes like from here. And you really can't like learn that anywhere, you know. And they can probably they know that, you know.
Right. Yeah, it actually like comes natural, and that was one of the reasons why I chose to do what I'm doing now, is because, like I said, I've been in like multiple programs, every level of care, and I found like that the counselors and the therapists that were in recovery themselves, like you said, like they know, like I knew like who could really like have. I mean, anybody could have empathy, but I knew that they knew like what like I really had been through, and I found like that I learned a lot more from the people that were in recovery themselves. Not to knock anybody who's not in recovery that works in treatment, but
it's definitely different.
Right, it's different. Like the job kind of like comes natural, and I can identify more. Yeah, and they can too.
Yeah. So make like the bond with whoever you're helping a little bit, you know, more than what it would be.
When it comes to that, the only thing I personally have to be careful for is boundaries. Right. Because as a professional, I have to hold to certain boundaries. Yeah. And the compassion that I have for people. And I've learned this over the period of time that I was a student, now being an employee. I want to see everybody succeed.
Sure.
Yeah. I want everybody to be better. You know, I want them to see what I have and have this life of recovery that I know is possible. So I have to be very careful with my boundaries and remember that I am a professional when I'm there. I'm always an addict. I always am an addict, but when I sit in a setting like that, I'm a professional. I'm a counselor. I'm here to help them to the best of my ability. And I just recently struggled with that. You know, I just recently went through a situation where, you know, the person's didn't succeed in the program, and it really affected me. So I had to like check myself and my emotions and my recovery because it becomes very difficult.
Well, I can understand why it would be. Yeah, I mean, because someone doesn't succeed, and both of you being addicts yourself know that a lot of people aren't going to succeed. You can understand it, but yet you still have to uphold you know, the laws and the regulations of the house and so forth. So it's got to be doubly hard because you're throwing someone out and you know what they've gone through. But yeah, you absolutely, you have to be kind of a hard side.
Leave work at work, and then, you know, have like your punch out for the day.
It goes back to what you said about keeping recovery like number one and up front. And even though like we like to help people and we want everybody to succeed, like we can't forget about ourselves either. And that's when like I need to remember that like my recovery comes first no matter what, and like that's when we need to go to our meetings and call our sponsors and do work on ourselves, because sometimes you can get so caught up helping other people that you forget about yourself.
And if you don't help yourself, if you don't take care of yourself, then nothing else is going to come from that.
Now, I don't know if either one of you ever dealt with this, but remember I told you outside, public enemy number one is the parent. Okay? Have you ever had dealings with parents or loved ones who want information from you, who want to know how they're doing, how come he got thrown out, so forth? Have you ever had any dealings like that?
And that could be like in the workplace, or I know you guys are both like sponsors too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I have, and it's unfortunate sometimes that I deal with adults. Everybody that comes to my house has to be over the age of 18, and the majority of them are over the age of 20. So without a written release of informed consent, I can't tell you anything. And a lot of people come in and they don't want their parents to know. Because if that day happens where they get thrown out, they don't want their parents to call, and then I can tell them. People that are really serious about treatment and really want to get better will involve their parents. and then it's almost like, okay, you know, they call it here and there, and that sort of thing, but most people don't. And it makes my job a little bit easier, honestly.
Yeah.
Because it's much easier for me to say to somebody, I cannot confirm or deny.
Right.
I understand you're his mother, but he's an adult. You know, so it just makes my job a little bit easier sometimes.
Just counsel the addict instead of the family too.
Right. You know, but we've had parents bring individuals in for interviews and want to sit with us and find out everything, and their child deny the bet. You know, and say, well, you know, I'm not going to come here, and the parent trying to convince them. You can see them outside trying to convince them.
This is the area I wanted to get into.
Like you can see them outside trying to convince them, and the individual, the addict, is just resistant. They just do not want to be there, and it's normally their mother was sitting behind them when they did the first initial phone intake.
Right.
You know, like coaching him into saying everything he needs to say, and it's sad sometimes because he's not going to make it.
No.
Even if he chooses to stay just to appease you, he's not going to make it.
Yeah, see, us parents have a habit of thinking we can make our kids, cure our own kids.
Right.
I'm not like that, but other parents are. I wasn't like that. But I'm glad you said that, because there are people in my group who are dealing with, you know, people that are having hard times, and you can hear them, and they want to do just what you said. They want to bring them down, sit them down, say you have to go in, and so forth, so forth. And basically what you're saying, if they're not ready, they're just not ready.
They're just not ready. It just won't work for them. They'll come up with something else in order to get themselves kicked out.
Yeah.
And especially in my treatment facility, it's very easy.
This is killing me. I can't. You're not going to believe this. I just got the 2-minute warning.
Oh, wow.
We're just about done. We're going to be having you guys back. Again, because I don't want to forget again, I'd like to thank all the volunteers who make it possible for us to put on this show. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed you guys. I can't believe a half hour's already gone. And, you know, I hope you will both agree to come back, because I know that there's so much more about the facilities that I'd like to make an awareness of, and I think we just scratched the surface. But you guys, I'm so proud of you. You guys are great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. He just said it. Like, I'm just like so proud of you guys. You know, like every time we go to this like certain meeting, and I just feel good like when I'm around you guys. Like Jen's like younger than me, but like I look up to you like you're like a big sister or something. You know what I mean? And like anything is possible in recovery. If people are like watching this out there and you think that your lives won't amount to anything and that you're just stuck in this like horrible spot and you don't know what to do, like, you know, you can't accomplish like anything, you know, like get yourself together and anything you can dream of or think of, set goals, and it can be done. And this is like living proof, like, you know, like right here. And I don't know, like I just love you guys.
All right, we're going to say goodbye. Colleen, say goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
We'll see you next month. Thank you for joining us, and we're going to have these gals back again. Bye.
Thank you.